I always thought I had my life figured out. Everything was planned, every step carefully considered, college, career, relationships. I was that girl who color-coded her planner, who had her 5-year goals taped to the inside of her closet. I didn't do impulsive, I didn't do complicated, and I especially didn't do broken promises. But that was before everything unraveled in a single summer. Before one promise changed the course of my life. It started with a phone call. I was 24, living in Denver, working as an executive assistant at a real estate company. My days were filled with schedules and spreadsheets, and my nights were usually spent curled up with a book or watching documentaries while drinking peppermint tea. I was, by all appearances, perfectly content, safe, comfortable. Then the phone rang. It was from my hometown in Iowa, a number I didn't recognize. I almost didn't pick up, but something told me to answer. The voice on the other end was shaky but familiar. "Hey, it's Emma." I didn't know who else to call. Emma. We hadn't spoken in almost 6 years. She had been my best friend all through high school, practically a sister. We did everything together, sleepovers, track meets, debate club. We made late-night promises to never drift apart, no matter where life took us. But life, of course, had other plans. Our friendship fell apart the summer after our freshman year of college. There wasn't a single reason, more like a slow drift. Different schools, different paths, different people. A few unanswered texts turned into silence. Then time passed and passed. I tried to reach out a few times. She didn't respond. I told myself she was busy, that she had moved on, and eventually I convinced myself I had too. But now she was calling, and she sounded broken. "I'm in trouble," she whispered. "I need to get away for a while. Can I stay with you?" I didn't even hesitate. "Yes," I said. "Come." 2 days later, she arrived. She looked nothing like the girl I remembered. Her hair was shorter, jagged like she'd cut it herself. She was thinner, not in a healthy way, and her eyes had shadows that didn't belong to someone her age. She carried one duffel bag and a nervous smile. "I didn't know where else to go," she said again as I let her in. I made tea. She barely drank it. We sat on my couch in silence until she finally spoke. I left him. The him in question was a man she'd met in college, someone I'd only seen in a few tagged photos years ago. His name was Mason. At first, she said, he was charming, attentive. He sent flowers, wrote poems, said all the right things. Then, slowly, things changed. The first time he got angry, he punched the wall. The second time, it was the coffee table. The third time, it wasn't furniture. She covered the bruise with makeup. She told her co-workers she slipped on the stairs. She told herself it was a mistake, but it wasn't. It became a pattern, and she became smaller, quieter. She wasn't allowed to see her friends. He controlled her bank account. He read her messages. He made her believe it was all her fault. And then one night, he crossed a line she couldn't ignore. She packed a bag while he slept and got on the first bus she could find. She came to me because, somewhere deep down, she remembered the promise we made when we were 17. If you ever need me, no matter what, I'll come. I didn't think you'd actually still want to help me, she said, voice cracking. I reached across the table and took her hand. I never stopped. The first few days were quiet. She mostly slept. I gave her space but kept checking in. I cooked her meals she barely touched, offered her books she didn't read, left music playing softly in the background because silence felt too loud. Then, one morning, I came home from work and found her cleaning the kitchen, humming. It was a tiny moment, but it meant everything. Over the next few weeks, she started to open up. We'd sit on the balcony at night and talk, really talk, about everything we'd missed, her college experience, my first job, the relationships that didn't work, the dreams we'd let slip away. Sometimes we cried, sometimes we laughed so hard we couldn't breathe. And slowly, the girl I used to know started to return, but not entirely. One night, as we watched the lights flicker across the skyline, she asked, "Do you ever wish you could go back?" "To high school?" I laughed. "Not really. I was too scared of not being perfect." She nodded. "Yeah, me too." She told me about the pressure to always be the bright one, the golden girl, how she'd learned to smile through pain, how she thought loving someone meant sacrificing yourself. We were quiet for a long time. Then she whispered, "Do you ever think you maybe liked girls back then? Like more than friends?" The question hung in the air like a thread waiting to be pulled. I looked at her. "Yeah," I said softly. "I think I did." She turned to me, eyes wide. "Me too. We didn't kiss that night. We didn't even touch." But something shifted, like we were finally saying the truth we were too young to name back then. The next few days were full of small glances, awkward pauses, tentative smiles. I didn't know what was happening between us. All I knew was that being around her felt right in a way nothing else had. Then one afternoon, I came home to find her standing by the window, holding her phone. "He found me," she said. My heart stopped. Mason had sent a message, just a few words. "You can't hide forever." She wanted to leave again, run. But I told her she didn't have to. "You're not alone anymore," I said. We went to the police, got a protective order, changed her number. I took a few days off work to be with her. She cried a lot, sometimes out of fear, sometimes out of relief. Healing isn't linear, I learned. It's messy, slow, full of setbacks. But we kept going, and somewhere along the way, we stopped being just old friends. One evening, as we watched the rain tap against the windows, she looked at me and said, "Thank you for keeping your promise." I smiled, and then I kissed her. It wasn't dramatic, no fireworks, just soft and real and long overdue. We didn't label it right away, we didn't need to, but we started building something new, together. Now, 2 years later, we live in a small apartment with too many books and not enough chairs. She's in school again, studying to become a counsellor for survivors. I still colour code my planner, but now there's room in the margins for spontaneity, for love, for us. Sometimes I think back to that promise, the one we made when we were kids, with stars in our eyes and no idea what life would throw at us. And I'm grateful I never broke it, because keeping that promise didn't just save her, it saved me too.